With new builds catching fire, homes sitting longer on the market, interest rates plus the stress test hurting not only buying power or how much someone can afford, but also significantly affecting homeowners with variable rate mortgage products who have seen their payments significantly increase. I'm Rochelle, your genuine realtor here on the western shores of Lake Ontario with some honest takes on the current real estate market. When chatting with clients recently, there is a common thread in the questions, and I'm guessing you might be wondering some of the same things too. There are definitely some important things to know when working in a shifting market, and I want to bring some clarity on a few of the key items for you. First, overpaying is a real risk for buyers. It's risky right now because if you want to make an offer and you say, I'll pay 1.2 million, and then as closing day approaches, the bank decides the home is actually only worth $1 million, you'll need to cover what is known as the appraisal gap. So in this case, you would potentially need to cover $200,000 in addition to your down payment and closing costs. Can't come up with that kind of money? It's not going to go well. Once the seller's lawyer knows that you intend to breach or did breach the contract, it triggers a sequence of events. First, you can try for an extension as the buyer, but expect to have some penalties for the trust the seller would put in you to actually close. If you still can't close or didn't negotiate an extension, the seller will relist the property and try to sell as soon as possible. If a new buyer commits and offers less than your $1.2 million offer, you'll not only lose your deposit, you will also likely be sued for the difference in purchase price plus the additional expenses incurred by the sellers in the process. We are talking about the potential for hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages. It can absolutely be devastating. So please work with someone who you trust to help protect you. Now, sellers in this situation, it's important to know that if you were using the proceeds of your sale to fund your next home, you could potentially be in the exact same crisis by not being able to close on your purchase. It is so important to remember the highest priced offer may not be the best offer, especially as more and more buyers are failing to close. Now, selling during a market correction is not without its challenges. Last year, as the first rate hike announcement came in, I had some wonderful clients who were caught in that shift. They had finally found their perfect home in a market where a dozen or so offers was really common on every home. They were so on top of what needed to be done, and my team was so efficient that they literally had the home up within a week. Just before they went live, that first rate announcement was made. What should have sold in the blink of an eye went into its second month on market before ultimately selling for well below what that initial market valuation was. They were stuck between a rock and a hard place, not wanting to breach their purchase contract, but still needing to get a certain amount of money out of their current home in order to purchase that new property. In this case, their saving grace was our marketing, but also their willingness to be pragmatic and price the home competitively. Whenever the market depressed further with buyers concerned about rising interest rates, they were so quick to reposition the home and work with us to market it extensively. Now, in order to make sure that the buyers of their home could actually close, we also marketed the buyer's home with permission, even though it was listed with another realtor. It's the cooperation of people working together and realtors who know what's happening in the local market that makes for happy endings as these market shifts happen. Now, if you are finding some value in this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and click the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss an upcoming episode. Next, I want to talk about statistics. You will see lots of things quoted, but the data can be easily skewed. Case in point, there was a home with a list price of $235,000 and a sale price of $2,205,000. That's more than 900% above asking. It's typos like this that can seriously skew stats that are taken at face value. Want to know what's happening in your local market? Don't turn to a national or large city news outlet. Instead, turn to your local, boots on the ground realtor who works in your community. They are your best resource for information about your home. Of course, I'm here if you have any questions at all about buying or selling on the western shores of Lake Ontario, and I can help connect you with an ethical and honest realtor in your local community if it's not somewhere I personally work. Now let's take a moment to talk about consumer protections. Lately, there has been a lot in the news and media about bad behavior from realtors. Now, they are the exception, but with around 96,000 realtors in Ontario, the likelihood of coming across a bad actor has increased in recent years. So consumers started complaining, as they should. And while there are quite a few phenomenal realtors out there pushing and working towards increasing professionalism by bringing back the standards and ethics that the public deserves, the push to improve the consumer experience has been an uphill climb for many years. There are a lot of reasons why this is the current state of affairs, and I won't deep dive here. However, I will cover some of the changes coming your way. First, the old legislation, known as REBA 2002, or the Real Estate Business Brokers Act, is finally being replaced with TRESA, the Trust in Real Estate Services Act. This is something leaders in organized real estate like myself have been fighting for since 2009, and we are finally able to update the act to better protect consumers and offer more transparency. That more open approach comes in a few forms. First, a consumer information guide created by the Real Estate Council of Ontario. It will help clarify the different relationships you can have and how it affects your options when working with a realtor. There will also be an increase in clarity for consumer obligations and disclosure requirements. There is also the opportunity for offer transparency, where a seller can choose to share the terms of an offer with the public while still protecting the identity of the buyers. There will also be a reform to the Code of Ethics for a principle-based approach. And we are looking to broaden the power of the discipline committee so those bad actors have impactful repercussions for breaching the act or code of ethics. Now, if you have experienced a bad actor in the real estate sphere, please report it to the Real Estate Council of Ontario. I will add that link below for easy access. I cannot express enough how important it is to work with a realtor you trust to protect your best interests. So what about home affordability? Because house prices have almost tripled in 10 years across Ontario, while income has not even come close to that kind of growth. This is the very reason Canadians are uniting behind a crisis need for more housing. But what solutions are there? Well, unfortunately, there is no single silver bullet answer, but rather a multitude of solutions that need to work together. Also, keep in mind that the term affordable means 30% or less of your monthly take-home income. In Ontario, we are looking at $23 per hour approximately for many areas, and $25 per hour in the Greater Toronto area to meet the basic cost of living needs. First, leaders of organized real estate are constantly advocating for your rights, and were appointed a position on the Ontario Housing Affordability Task Force, where they took an extensive look at the many facets impacting affordability and ways to combat it. Some of the key items worth noting are that there is a lot of red tape in passing permits and zoning bylaws. If a community only allows single detached homes or a duplex, but someone wants to take a large lot and build 5 townhomes, the zoning would likely need to be amended. This can take months or years. There are also many communities where you can't build an in-law suite due to zoning regulations. Same with permits. Builders can wait years for community input, permit applications, and amendments required. With all of the permitting processes and taxes on new builds, The cost of doing business is just passed along to the consumer. And while it can be easy to call builders greedy, their profit margins are not as lucrative as you might imagine. If we need to build 1.5 million homes in the next 10 years, the red tape around getting shovels in the ground needs to be expedited. This is why there is a deep dive right now into the two-tier government system of Halton Region. It's an effort to streamline and stop duplicate processes. But in Ontario, there is a shortage of 100,000 tradespeople to actually build 1.5 million houses. A big driver of this is that around 80,000 tradespeople currently working in Ontario are slated for retirement in the next decade alone. There is also the Building Homes Faster Fund, which was a recommendation from the Ontario Housing Affordability Task Force that has come into place. The fund offers financial support to municipalities that meet the requirements for the increase in housing supply over the next 3 years. This $1.2 billion fund offers significant incentives for municipalities to hit their housing targets. There is also a focus on short-term rentals at a provincial level. These include Airbnb and Vrbo. This method of investing pulls long-term housing options from the market in favor of multiple short-term stays each month, which generally bring in more revenue for the owner without worrying about landlord restrictions. The federal government is also looking at student visas, as there are a lot of schools that market to foreign students without offering any student housing options, which impacts the local housing stock. There was a lack of information on what was happening in the rental market because no database existed to track what was happening in that sphere. With backlogs in hearings for bad actors in the rental market, lack of information on tenant experiences and the costs associated. It's been long overdue, but the Ontario Rental Housing Study was completed in September of 2023. This report sheds light on some of the negative impacts that tenants face, and with some landlords raising rents by incredibly large amounts, there is a call to review the policy to better protect tenants from exorbitant increases. Now, if you are a tenant and want to make a positive impact and help protect rental affordability, you can add your name to the rental registry, which I will also link below. Now, I do want to mention that it's very unlikely we will see a 90s recession-style drop in prices. And that's just because the amount of people, the demand on the sidelines from people really wanting to get into the real estate market is still there. But you can expect to see some softening of the prices, more options for buyers as inventory increases, thankfully, and more skill will be required of realtors to bring deals together. Using a knowledgeable realtor you trust will continue to be so important when navigating this market. There's definitely more we could have covered today, but I'm going to leave it here for now as it's a lot to digest all at once. If you've got questions or comments, feel free to leave them below or reach out directly. I am always happy to chat about your real estate needs. Until next time, keep it genuine.